Jessica Keller, the bank manager, slid the withdrawal slip back across the counter with a condescending tone. "I'm sorry, but we can't just hand out cash to anyone who walks in, especially not amounts like this." Her words echoed through the marble lobby of Meridian Financial's flagship branch. A group of staff formed a circle, one whispering loudly enough to be heard. "Yeah, right, she doesn't even look like she has that kind of money." Laughter rippled through the group as Angela, the woman at the counter, stood with dignity intact but felt the sting of humiliation. What these employees didn't know was about to upend their careers, their lives, and the bank itself. Angela was no ordinary customer. She was the undercover CEO of Meridian Financial. Have you ever been judged before someone knew your name or story? This tale delivers a powerful dose of instant karma. If you believe everyone deserves fair treatment and respect, regardless of skin color, comment, respect first, and subscribe for more stories like this. Angela Freeman stood calmly at the counter, her posture composed despite the dismissive and mocking faces of the bank staff. None recognized her as the CEO. 25 years earlier, Angela started as a teller trainee, wearing a pressed uniform and a name tag. Her rise to the executive suite was extraordinary. With no wealth or connections, Angela's determination, intelligence, and work ethic propelled her from teller to loan officer, branch manager to regional director. She mastered every role, earned an MBA from Harvard, led record-breaking quarters in 3 divisions, and became known as a problem solver who turned around struggling branches. 5 years ago, she became chief operations officer, but many thought that was her ceiling. They were wrong. 3 months ago, when Meridian's CEO retired, the board faced a choice. Despite Angela's stellar credentials and 2 decades of service, some members privately questioned whether major clients would accept a black woman as the company's face. After a contentious vote, Angela became the first black woman to lead Meridian Financial. Her acceptance speech was clear. "I will ensure every client, employee, and community we serve experiences respect and excellence, no exceptions." Behind closed doors, Angela uncovered a troubling pattern in customer complaints. While overall satisfaction scores seemed solid, deeper data revealed disparities in service quality at certain branches, particularly for customers of color. Exit interviews showed people leaving, citing poor service and feeling unwelcome, though most wouldn't elaborate. Determined to see the truth, Angela went undercover, visiting the flagship branch managed by Jessica Keller. Keller's record was impressive: high transaction volumes, excellent account generation, but the data hinted at a different story. Angela's undercover visit would reveal the unfiltered reality, exposing biases that would shake the bank to its core. At 9:15 a.m. on a Tuesday, Angela Freeman entered Meridian Financial's flagship branch through its revolving doors. Dressed in a modest navy hoodie, dark slacks, and a face cap, with natural hair styled conservatively and minimal makeup, she carried a well-maintained but non-designer purse. To anyone watching, she appeared to be an ordinary middle-class woman, not the CEO of the entire institution. Taking a seat in the waiting area, Angela pretended to check her phone while observing the customer service dynamics. What she saw in the first 15 minutes was more telling than any survey. A white businessman in an expensive suit was greeted warmly before reaching the counter. "Good morning, sir. How can we help you today?" a staff member said, escorting him to a desk bypassing the line. An elderly Asian couple, however, was directed to take a number and wait, with no smile or warmth. A young white woman in casual clothes was served at the quick service counter with friendly chatter, her transaction completed in under 2 minutes. But a Hispanic man in janitor's work clothes faced extra questions, multiple ID checks, and a suspicious glance, his simple check cashing taking nearly 10 minutes. Angela observed this pattern repeat 6 more times. After waiting 37 minutes, despite the branch being only moderately busy and 3 white customers who arrived after her being served, Angela approached teller Beth's window. Beth's smile faltered. "How can I help you?" she asked, her tone cooler than with the previous customer. "I'd like to make a withdrawal," Angela said, sliding her ID and a withdrawal slip for $115,000 across the counter. Beth's eyes widened. She examined Angela's driver's license, glancing between it and Angela's face as if doubting they matched. "This is a large amount," Beth said, her voice loud enough to draw attention from the next window. Angela replied calmly, "It's well within the daily limit for my account type." Beth didn't respond, instead whispering to Mark, the senior teller. Mark glanced over, nodded, and positioned himself behind Beth, towering over the counter. "Is there a problem here?" he asked loudly, directing his question at Angela. Heads turned in the lobby. Other customers stared, an older woman clutching her purse tighter. Angela felt the weight of their judgment, the assumption she was doing something wrong. With composure, she placed her bank card beside her ID. "No problem at all. I'm simply making a withdrawal." Mark scrutinized her ID with exaggerated care. We've been seeing unusual activity on these types of accounts lately, he said, emphasizing these types with a pointed tone. We need to be extra careful. Angela asked, what types of accounts would those be exactly? Mark ignored her, instructing Beth, pull up the account history. Let's see what transaction patterns we're looking at. As Beth typed, another staff member, Richard, leaned in and whispered, not quietly enough, probably one of those money laundering or check cashing schemes. His contempt was clear as he smirked, eyeing Angela's modest clothing and natural hair. We just need to verify the funds are actually yours, he added with false sweetness. Jessica Keller, the bank manager, then approached, sliding the withdrawal slip back across the counter. I'm sorry, but we can't just hand out cash to anyone who walks in, especially not amounts like this, she said condescendingly. A group of staff formed a circle, one whispering loudly, yeah, right, she doesn't even look like she has that kind of money. Laughter rippled through the group. Angela stood firm, her dignity intact despite the humiliation. Unbeknownst to them, she was Meridian's CEO, and her undercover visit was about to expose deep-seated biases. 25 years earlier, Angela started as a teller trainee. With no wealth or connections, her determination, intelligence, and work ethic drove her from teller to loan officer, branch manager to regional director. She earned a Harvard MBA, led record-breaking quarters in 3 divisions, and became known for turning around struggling branches. 5 years ago, she became chief operations officer, but many thought that was her limit. When the previous CEO retired 3 months ago, some board members questioned whether clients would accept a black woman as the company's face. After a contentious vote, Angela became the first black woman to lead Meridian Financial, vowing in her acceptance speech, I will ensure every client, employee, and community experiences respect and excellence, no exceptions. Analyzing customer complaints, Angela uncovered disparities in service quality, particularly for customers of color. Exit interviews revealed people leaving, citing poor service and feeling unwelcome, though most wouldn't elaborate. To see the truth, Angela went undercover at the flagship branch managed by Jessica Keller, whose impressive record masked troubling patterns. Angela's visit revealed a culture of bias that would shake the bank to its core, delivering a lesson in respect and accountability. At 9:15 a.m. on a Tuesday, Angela Freeman entered Meridian Financial's flagship branch through its revolving doors. Dressed in a navy hoodie, dark slacks, and a face cap, with natural hair styled conservatively and minimal makeup, she carried a non-designer purse. To onlookers, she appeared as an ordinary middle-class woman, not the CEO of the institution. Sitting in the waiting area, Angela pretended to check her phone while observing customer service dynamics. In 15 minutes, the disparities were stark. A white businessman in a suit was greeted warmly, escorted to a desk without waiting. An elderly Asian couple was told to take a number and wait, with no warmth. A young white woman's quick-service transaction was completed in under 2 minutes with friendly chatter. A Hispanic man in janitor's clothes faced extra questions, multiple ID checks, and a suspicious glance, his check cashing taking nearly 10 minutes. Angela noted this pattern repeat 6 times. After waiting 37 minutes, despite a moderately busy branch and 3 white customers served before her, Angela approached teller Beth's window. Beth's smile faded. "How can I help you?" she asked coolly. Angela slid her ID and a $115,000 withdrawal slip across the counter. Beth's eyes widened, scrutinizing the ID and Angela's face as if doubting they matched. "This is a large amount," Beth said loudly, drawing attention. Angela replied calmly, "It's within the daily limit for my account type." Beth whispered to senior teller Mark, who positioned himself behind her, towering over the counter. "Is there a problem here?" he asked loudly, addressing Angela. Heads turned, an older woman clutched her purse. Angela felt the weight of their judgment. She placed her bank card beside her ID. "No problem. I'm making a withdrawal." Mark scrutinized her ID. "We've seen unusual activity on these types of accounts," he said, emphasizing these types. Angela asked, "What types of accounts?" Mark ignored her, telling Beth to check the account history. Richard, another staff member, whispered, "Probably a money laundering or check cashing scheme," smirking at Angela's modest attire. "We need to verify the funds are yours," he added with false sweetness. Branch manager Jessica Keller approached, sliding the withdrawal slip back. "We can't just hand out cash to anyone, especially not amounts like this," she said condescendingly. A staff circle formed, one whispering, "She doesn't even look like she has that kind of money." Laughter followed. Angela stood firm, dignity intact. "I understand security needs," Angela said, voice unwavering. "I've provided my ID and card. I'm a long-time customer and want to complete my transaction." Jessica, exuding authority, responded, $115,000 is significant. May I ask what it's for? No white customer had faced this question that morning. The double standard was blatant. Jessica added, holding Angela's ID by the edges. This amount doesn't seem appropriate for someone like you. This bank prides itself on dignity, and we serve a certain class of customers. Her prejudice was clear. Staff reactions varied. Beth fidgeted, uncomfortable but silent. Mark and Richard smirked, Richard snickering. Did you come into some money? A settlement? Inheritance? Or maybe you laundered it? Their assumption was that a black woman couldn't legitimately have such funds. A white mother nearby paused her transaction, pulling her children closer, whispering, reinforcing suspicion. Angela, remarkably composed, said, I'd like to speak with someone who can help me complete my transaction, someone with authority to override your concerns. Jessica's smile tightened, anger flashing. I'm the highest authority here. I'm the manager. Unbeknownst to them, Angela was Meridian's CEO. 25 years earlier, she started as a teller trainee. With no wealth or connections, her intelligence, work ethic, and Harvard MBA propelled her to loan officer, branch manager, regional director, and chief operations officer. When the previous CEO retired 3 months ago, some board members doubted clients would accept a black woman as the company's face. After a contentious vote, Angela became the first black woman to lead Meridian, vowing, every client, employee, and community will experience respect and excellence, no exceptions. Customer complaint data revealed service disparities, especially for customers of color. Exit interviews cited poor service and feeling unwelcome. Angela's undercover visit to Jessica's branch, with its impressive record but troubling patterns, exposed a culture of bias. Her experience, humiliation met with dignity, would shake the bank, delivering a lesson in respect and accountability. In a scene that could have been ripped from the pages of a civil rights-era novel, a high-powered executive faced blatant discrimination at a local bank branch, highlighting the persistent undercurrents of racial bias in everyday American life. Angela Freeman, a successful chief operating officer, COO, at a prominent tech firm, walked into the downtown branch of First National Bank on a crisp Tuesday morning with a simple request: to withdraw $50,000 from her account. What should have been a routine transaction devolved into a humiliating standoff, captured in excruciating detail by the bank's own security cameras. Eyewitnesses described the atmosphere as tense from the moment Freeman approached the teller window. Beth, the initial teller assisting her, appeared flustered, her rigid posture betraying discomfort as she processed the request. Freeman, dressed in professional attire and carrying a modest leather purse, a gift from her team upon her promotion, presented her ID and account details calmly. But whispers and sidelong glances from staff members Richard and Mark, who were observed smirking and mimicking her, set the tone for what was to come. The escalation began when Jessica, the branch manager, intervened. Leaning in with a stage whisper that carried across the counter, she suggested Freeman might be more comfortable at a check-cashing place down the street, implying it was better suited for her type of banking needs. The comment, laced with condescension and reeking of her expensive cologne meant to exude authority, drew audible gasps from nearby customers who were openly eavesdropping. One observer, an older black man in a postal worker's uniform, watched with a resigned expression, later telling this reporter, "This isn't surprising. It's just Tuesday, banking while black." The bank's mission statement, emblazoned on the wall behind the tellers, building financial success together with trust, respect, and integrity, stood in stark irony to the unfolding drama. Cash-counting machines whirred softly in the background, and the wall clock ticked relentlessly, marking the time at 10:17 a.m. as the confrontation intensified. Freeman, undeterred, pulled out her phone and dialed a number, stepping slightly away but remaining in view. "Yes, hello, this is Angela Freeman calling," she said in a professional tone that only seemed to fuel the staff's mockery. Richard exaggerated her posture for Mark's amusement, turning the moment into a performative display of dominance at her expense. Jessica, her patience fraying, stepped forward with squeaking polished shoes on the marble floor. "I'm going to have to ask you to conclude your business elsewhere," she declared. "You're creating a disturbance in our branch. The lower banks out there will be able to serve you, not here." The irony was palpable. The only disturbance stemmed from the staff's biased treatment of a legitimate customer daring to expect equal service. Freeman continued her call unfazed. "Yes, I'm still at the downtown branch." "No, they've refused the transaction." "Yes, that's correct." Her composed demeanor, neither explosive anger nor defeated retreat, clearly unnerved Jessica, whose voice rose as the professional veneer cracked. "Ma'am, if you don't leave the premises immediately, I'll be forced to call security." As the standoff stretched on, the incident underscores a broader issue plaguing financial institutions: systemic racism that manifests in microaggressions and outright denial of service. In the bustling lobby of Meridian Financial's downtown branch, tension crackled like static electricity. Jessica Keller, the branch manager, stood confidently behind the counter, unaware that her actions were about to unravel her career. Moments earlier, she had signaled to Mark, a security officer, to dial the emergency extension as a confrontation escalated. Other employees froze, their tasks abandoned, sensing something monumental unfolding. Angela Freeman, a woman they had underestimated, stood at the center of it all. With calm authority, she turned from Jessica and spoke into her phone, her voice steady. "Diane, I need you at the downtown branch. Now." The name hit Jessica like a jolt. Diane Porter, head of operations for Meridian Financial, was a titan in the company. How did Angela, a woman Jessica had dismissed as insignificant, have her direct number? Doubt flickered across Jessica's face, her confident facade cracking for the first time. She brushed it off as a bluff, a desperate attempt to intimidate by name-dropping a powerful figure. But the truth was far more seismic. Angela Freeman wasn't just a customer. She was the CEO of Meridian Financial, working undercover to uncover systemic issues within her own company. Half a mile away, in the gleaming executive suite of Meridian's headquarters, chaos erupted. Diane Porter shot to her feet, her face ashen as she recognized Angela's voice on the line. The two women had been allies for over a decade, shattering glass ceilings together as women of color in the cutthroat world of corporate finance. "Get me every customer complaint from the downtown branch for the past year," Diane ordered her assistant, her voice sharp. "Every single one, even the ones that didn't make the formal review." Her assistant scrambled, clutching a tablet and security badge, as Diane's heels clicked urgently across the marble floor toward the executive elevator. In the adjacent conference room, board members reviewing quarterly projections were interrupted as security feeds from the downtown branch flickered onto the main screen. "What's happening?" demanded Jonathan Prescott, the chairman of the board. The head of security, his face grim, replied, "You need to see this, sir." The room fell silent as they watched Angela Freeman, their CEO, being treated with contempt by the branch staff. That's Angela Freeman," stammered a board member. The security director nodded. "This has been going on for 17 minutes. Record everything," Prescott commanded, his voice taut with fury. "Every second, every word. And get legal up here now." On the screen, the scene unfolded in real time, each moment exposing the branch's pattern of discriminatory behavior. Unbeknownst to Jessica and her team, the security cameras had captured not only their treatment of Angela, but also their interactions with other customers that morning. Every instance of disparate treatment, every preferential service, was now preserved as damning evidence. Back in the lobby, the atmosphere grew colder as Jessica's confidence began to crumble. The realization that something was terribly wrong crept over her. Angela stood motionless, her phone back in her purse, watching as Jessica's arrogance gave way to uncertainty. The branch's security system, designed to protect against external threats, had inadvertently documented an internal one, a culture of discrimination that Angela had witnessed firsthand. On the 21st floor, the executive suite transformed into a war room. The observation room, typically a quiet hub for monitoring branch feeds, buzzed with urgency. Analysts pored over footage, legal teams were summoned, and board members grappled with the implications of what they were seeing. Angela Freeman, the CEO they had entrusted to lead Meridian Financial, had exposed a rot within the company's core. Jessica Keller, unaware of the storm gathering above her, stood on the precipice of a career-ending mistake. As Diane Porter descended in the elevator, the weight of the moment settled over Meridian Financial. Angela's undercover mission had uncovered a truth that would ripple through the company, forcing a reckoning that no one, not Jessica, not the board, not the employees, could ignore. In the heart of the downtown branch, a crisis unfolded that shook the core of the institution. Diane Porter, head of operations, stood in the control room, her navy suit sharp and her demeanor sharper, radiating controlled fury. Her voice cut through the tension, demanding every angle of footage, audio, facial recognition, timestamps, everything. Her staff, sensing the gravity, moved with urgency, pulling up multiple camera views of the lobby where a humiliating scene played out. Angela Freeman, the bank's CEO, was being treated like a criminal in her own institution. A young technician, face pale, reported that camera 3 had the clearest audio, capturing continuous footage from 9:15 a.m. when Angela entered the branch. In the adjacent boardroom, 3 board members, Jonathan Prescott, Catherine Reynolds, and another, watched in stunned silence as the wall-sized screens displayed the incident. The footage revealed smirks, eye rolls, and blatant disrespect, with customers treated differently based on appearance. The pattern was undeniable, playing out in real time. Prescott, the board chairman, confirmed grimly, "That's our CEO." The audio feed captured Jessica Keller, the branch manager, addressing Angela with condescension. "These check-cashing places are really better equipped for your needs." Her tone filled the boardroom, exposing not just poor service but systemic discrimination, the kind the bank had convinced itself didn't exist. Reynolds whispered, "This is happening in our flagship branch," her words heavy with the unspoken question. How many other customers face this daily, leaving silently, never filing complaints? Diane, already in motion, barked orders to her assistant. "Get me everything on Jessica Keller, employment history, performance reviews, customer complaints, everything. And call legal. They meet me downstairs in 15 minutes." As she rushed to the elevator, Diane scrolled through her tablet, pulling up branch analytics. The downtown branch boasted impressive metrics: top-tier account generation, strong loan origination, excellent deposit growth. But filtering the data by customer demographics revealed a stark truth. The branch had the highest account rejection rate for minority applicants, the lowest loan approvals for Black business owners, and a customer attrition rate among people of color triple the bank's average. The patterns, hidden in plain sight, were undeniable. How had they missed this, or had they chosen not to see? Back in the lobby, tensions escalated. Jessica summoned Thomas, a young security guard, barely 25 and new to the job, visibly uncomfortable with the situation. "I need this woman escorted from the premises," Jessica instructed, not looking at Angela, her voice carrying the certainty of unchallenged authority. She claimed Angela was creating a disturbance and refusing to leave after being denied service. Thomas hesitated, his gaze flickering between his manager and Angela, whose calm composure stood in stark contrast to Jessica's agitation. Addressing the guard, Angela said evenly, "I have every right to be here. I'm a customer of this bank, attempting to access my own funds. I have provided all required identification." The incident, now frozen in the security feeds, exposed not just one manager's actions but a deeper, systemic failure. Thomas, the security guard, shifted uneasily, his training on robbery protocols and emergency procedures offering no guidance for the moral dilemma unfolding before him. Jessica, the bank manager, stood firm, her face flushed with anger. She had accused Angela, a customer, of attempting fraud, a serious charge in a banking environment, yet one lacking evidence. To onlookers, the real fraud was becoming clear, the illusion of equal service and fairness. The staff formed a united front behind Jessica. Mark stood with arms crossed, his security badge deliberately twisted to hide his name. Richard twirled a pen with a smug grin, radiating casual contempt. Even Beth, who had earlier seemed uneasy, now stood in solidarity, though her gaze remained fixed on the floor. Their stance was unmistakable, an institutional wall against Angela, whose only offense was expecting basic dignity. Other customers in the branch took notice. Some glanced furtively while pretending to focus on their transactions. Others watched openly, their expressions ranging from discomfort to curiosity. A middle-aged man stepped forward, emboldened by a sense of entitlement. "Some of us have real banking to do," he said impatiently, urging Angela to stop causing trouble. The irony stung. Angela had spent years championing customer experience, inclusion initiatives, and training programs, all now undermined by entrenched biases no corporate policy could erase. Rather than escalate, Angela raised her phone, calmly recording the scene. She captured the staff's expressions, Thomas's discomfort, and the man's intervention, preserving every moment with clarity. Jessica noticed and bristled, her voice sharp. "Photography is not permitted in the bank. That's another violation of our policies." Angela's response was measured but firm. According to Meridian Financial's customer service policy, Section 4.3, customers have the right to document interactions where they feel their rights are being violated. Her precise knowledge of the policy caught Jessica off guard, planting seeds of doubt. Who was this woman? How did she know the rules so well? How did she have Diane Porter's direct number? Jessica ignored these questions, her composure crumbling. "This is exactly what I'm talking about," she declared loudly, addressing the staff and customers. "These people are always trying to game the system, looking for loopholes to exploit." Her words stripped away any pretense, revealing raw prejudice, captured not only on Angela's phone but also on the bank's own security cameras. The lobby was a mix of reactions. Some customers watched in morbid fascination, others looked away, pretending not to see. The confrontation laid bare a truth no policy could conceal: the gap between corporate ideals and human behavior. In the polished marble lobby of Meridian Financial's flagship branch, a spectacle unfolded that no one could ignore. Staff members shifted uncomfortably as Jessica Keller, the branch manager, grew increasingly erratic, her professional facade cracking to reveal deep-seated prejudice. Richard, who had openly mocked earlier, now cast uncertain glances at Jessica. The situation was spiraling beyond his expectations, crossing lines even he knew were unacceptable in a professional setting. Beth, the teller who had first assisted Angela Freeman, looked physically ill, her face ashen as the routine transaction she had handled escalated into something far uglier. She had followed protocol, calling her manager for a large withdrawal, but this public humiliation of a customer was not what she had signed up for. Only Mark remained unwavering in his support of Jessica, his crossed arms and rigid stance a physical embodiment of the institutional barriers Angela had faced throughout her career. At the center of this storm stood Angela Freeman, perfectly still, her dignity unshaken. The weight of the moment rested on her shoulders, not just for herself, but for every customer who had ever been dismissed, disrespected, or denied service based on their appearance. The faint chime of the elevator briefly interrupted the tension, drawing Jessica's attention for a moment. Something in the air shifted, like the pressure drop before a storm. Then, the grand double doors of the branch burst open with such force that they slammed against the walls, the sound reverberating through the lobby like a thunderclap. Every head turned as Diane Porter, head of operations and second-in-command of the entire corporation, strode in with commanding intensity. Her presence demanded immediate attention. "Stop this immediately," she declared, her voice carrying absolute authority. Not a request, but a command that froze everyone in place. Jessica's expression shifted from irritation to confusion as she recognized Diane. In her 15 years managing the branch, Diane had visited only a handful of times, always with a scheduled agenda. This unannounced arrival, coupled with the fury in her stride, sparked the first real flicker of fear in Jessica's eyes. The staff, who moments ago had stood united behind their manager, now wavered. Richard's smirk vanished, Mark's arms dropped to his sides, and Beth looked as though she might collapse, her face drained of color. Jessica attempted to regain control, smoothing her hair and forcing a customer service smile. "Ms. Porter, what an unexpected pleasure. Is there something? Do you have any idea who this is?" Diane cut her off, gesturing toward Angela, who remained composed amidst the chaos. The question hung heavily in the air. Jessica glanced at Angela, then back at Diane, confusion giving way to dread. Her mind raced. Was Angela a friend of Diane's, a relative of a board member, a banking regulator, or perhaps a high-net-worth client they'd been courting? The other customers in the branch had abandoned their own business, some pulling out phones to record the confrontation. An elderly woman who had witnessed the entire ordeal nodded in satisfaction, as if justice was finally being served. Thomas, the security guard, took a deliberate step back from Jessica, instinctively distancing himself from what he now saw as the wrong side of the conflict. Diane approached Angela, her demeanor softening with profound respect. "I am so deeply sorry you experienced this, especially here," she said, her voice carrying through the silent lobby. Then, turning back to the staff, her expression hardened once more, signaling that the reckoning had only just begun. In a dramatic confrontation at Meridian Financial's downtown branch, Angela Freeman, the bank's CEO, exposed a pattern of discriminatory practices that left branch manager Jessica Keller and her team reeling. Freeman's voice carried undeniable authority as she addressed the staff, revealing that she had been the target of their mockery and bias during an undercover visit. The revelation hit like a thunderbolt. Jessica staggered, Richard covered his mouth in horror, Mark paled, and Beth trembled, tears streaming down her face. 3 months prior, Freeman had made history in the grand ballroom of the city's most luxurious hotel. Under sparkling chandeliers, she accepted the ceremonial key to Meridian Financial, becoming the first black woman to lead a top 10 national bank. Dignitaries, financial leaders, and press filled the room, celebrating the milestone. Jessica Keller, watching the live stream during a staff meeting, had clapped politely and made comments about progress. Yet, when Freeman walked into her branch, Jessica failed to recognize, or deliberately ignored, her own CEO. Diane, a senior compliance officer, stepped forward with damning evidence. She held up a tablet displaying security footage from the branch, revealing stark disparities in customer treatment. A white customer withdrawing a large sum was met with smiles and efficiency, while a Hispanic customer making an identical request faced scrutiny. A wealthy-looking client was ushered to an office, but an elderly black woman waited 40 minutes for basic service. Diane's voice trembled with controlled anger as she declared that every interaction in the branch was recorded, exposing a pattern of discrimination that violated company policies and federal banking regulations. She listed the violations methodically. Differential treatment based on perceived race or socioeconomic status, inconsistent verification protocols, creating a hostile environment for clients accessing their funds, and falsely accusing customers of fraud without evidence. Jessica's face flushed as her professional facade crumbled. She stammered, claiming security concerns with large withdrawals, but Diane swiftly countered. Footage of 3 similar withdrawals processed earlier that day for other customers showed no such scrutiny, only a consistent pattern of bias. Richard, desperate to deflect blame, admitted to following Jessica's lead, citing training to be cautious with unusual transactions. Mark tried to justify their actions, mentioning fraudulent schemes targeting the branch. Diane shut them down, revealing that the bank had access to every email, memo, and communication within its systems. Their excuses only deepened their predicament. The situation escalated with the arrival of 3 board members, Jonathan Prescott, Catherine Reynolds, and Dennis Whitehill. Their grave expressions signaled the severity of the crisis. Board members rarely appeared in daily operations, but this was no ordinary day. Their presence underscored the unprecedented nature of the reckoning unfolding at Meridian Financial, as Freeman and her team confronted a scandal that threatened careers and the bank's reputation. The lobby of Meridian Financial's flagship branch, already hushed, grew quieter still. Customers watched, wide-eyed, as the organization's most senior leaders formed a semicircle around Angela Freeman, embodying the support that should have been hers from the start. Throughout the tense confrontation, Angela remained silent, her gaze steady, not with satisfaction or vindication, but with the sharp clarity of a leader identifying a systemic flaw that demanded correction. For her, this was not personal. It was institutional, a failure she was duty-bound to address. When Angela finally spoke, her voice was calm, measured, and carried absolute authority. She addressed the three employees at the heart of the incident: Jessica, Richard, and Mark, making deliberate eye contact with each. "You are terminated, effective immediately." No raised voice, no theatrics. Just the decisive exercise of power by someone who had earned the right to wield it. She continued, "Your actions today have shown you are fundamentally incompatible with the values of this institution and the legal standards of fair banking practices." Jessica's face twisted with shock, anger, and humiliation, the weight of her 15-year career collapsing in a public spectacle of her own making. She began to protest. "You can't just," but Angela raised a hand, and silence fell instantly. "I can, and I have," Angela replied simply. She nodded to Thomas, the security guard who had observed the scene unfold. "Please escort these former employees to collect their personal belongings, and then off the premises." Thomas straightened, his nod reflecting newfound purpose. "Yes, ma'am." As security led Jessica, Richard, and Mark toward the back offices, the lobby remained silent. Customers and staff watched, stunned, as accountability was enforced at the highest level. There was no cheering, no celebration, just a collective recognition of justice being served. Beth, the teller who had initiated the interaction but shown visible discomfort throughout, stood trembling behind her counter, bracing for her own reckoning. Angela approached her, speaking quietly. The words were inaudible to most, but Beth's expression shifted from fear to confusion, then cautious relief. She nodded, wiping tears from her cheeks. Later, it would be revealed that Beth was placed on probation rather than fired. Her acknowledgement of her mistakes and unease with her colleagues' behavior, captured on security footage, had spared her. In the months that followed, she would emerge as a passionate advocate for equitable service within the bank. As the three former employees were escorted out, their belongings hastily packed into cardboard boxes, the gravity of the moment settled over the branch. This was more than a firing. It was a public declaration of Meridian Financial's values. Angela Freeman stood at the center of the branch that bore her company's name, flanked by a leadership team that had affirmed her authority, in full view of customers who now understood who led their bank. In mere minutes, Angela had transformed from a customer-denied service to the embodiment of unyielding authority. The message was unmistakable. Discrimination had no place at Meridian Financial, and those who perpetuated it had no future there. After the terminated employees were gone, a heavy silence lingered. Customers stood rooted. Staff remained frozen behind their counters, all eyes on Angela. When she addressed the remaining staff, her voice carried not anger but resolve, signaling a new chapter for the institution. One rooted in accountability, fairness, and unwavering leadership. Angela Freeman, CEO of Meridian Financial, stood before her employees, her voice steady and commanding as she addressed a critical issue. "What happened today wasn't just about three individuals making poor choices," she began, gathering the shaken staff in a semicircle. "It's about a culture that allowed those choices to seem acceptable. A culture we will transform, starting now." The employees listened intently, some avoiding her gaze, others nodding in acknowledgement of long-ignored truths. Meridian Financial exists to serve all customers with dignity, respect, and fairness, Angela declared. These aren't just words on our mission statement. They are the standard for every interaction moving forward. As she spoke, Diane Porter, Angela's trusted aide, worked swiftly on her tablet, activating rarely used emergency protocols. Transferring management authority, securing access credentials, and establishing temporary leadership until permanent replacements could be named. Angela continued, "Every branch, department, and role in this organization will be evaluated not just on profitability, but on equitable service. The metrics we value reflect the company we want to be." Beth, a young teller who had sparked the incident by alerting Angela, stood trembling at the group's edge, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry," Beth whispered, her voice breaking. "I knew it wasn't right, but I didn't know what to do." Angela listened closely, recognizing a pivotal moment. Learning to stand up against wrongdoing, even from authority figures, is one of the hardest but most valuable skills, she told Beth. In a move that would become part of Meridian's corporate lore, Angela announced, Beth, effective immediately, your interim branch manager. Gasps rippled through the staff. Beth, stunned, stammered. But I'm just, Angela interrupted. You're someone who recognized what was wrong, even if you didn't have the tools to stop it. That awareness is the foundation we need. You'll have support, training, and resources, but most importantly, you bring the perspective of someone committed to making things right. 3 days later, Angela stood at a podium emblazoned with Meridian Financial's logo, facing journalists, cameras, and recorders. The press conference, hastily arranged but carefully orchestrated, delivered a bold message. Today, Meridian Financial announces our Equitable Banking Initiative, Angela stated, her professional attire contrasting the modest clothing she wore during her undercover branch visit. This $50 million program invests in anti-discrimination training, community outreach, and internal accountability systems. Board members stood beside her, their presence signaling institutional commitment, though the emergency board meeting had been contentious, with some resisting the investment and public admission of fault. Angela had swayed them by outlining the legal, financial, and reputational risks, backed by security footage from the branch. Banking discrimination isn't just morally wrong, it's bad business, Angela told the press. When we fail to serve all communities equitably, we leave talent undeveloped, businesses unfunded, and potential unrealized. In the front row sat former customers who had faced discrimination. Michael Mandel, an entrepreneur whose loan was repeatedly denied despite a strong business plan. Elena Rodriguez, steered away from premium services she qualified for, and James Chun, burdened with excessive documentation requirements. Angela gestured to them. These brave individuals will serve on our Client Equity Advisory Board, ensuring lived experiences shape our policies.